Hey everyone, it's Mr. Watt. Hoping everybody is faring well, hoping you're staying safe, hoping you're staying healthy. My wife and I are both fine. We're at home. We're not showing any symptoms. We're feeling fine. Basically staying home, running quick missions to the grocery store, and walking the dog. Right now my dog is resting. I'll introduce you to Rosie. Say hi, Rosie. 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 She's being difficult. That's okay. Yeah, you notice I got a new little thing going on my face. I know it looks kind of weird. It probably won't stay there for a while because I'm testing to see how long I can do it. As long as the crisis exists, I'll keep doing it. Otherwise, we'll go from there. Today, what I thought I would do is a quick and easy lesson in baking. For many of you, I know some of you guys have mentioned I like being in the kitchen, I like cooking. Cooking is fun for me, and we're going to be in my kitchen. And part of what we're going to look at today is we're actually going to take a look at how to bake cookies. Some of you are bakers, and you probably have done this before, so it's not that big a deal. Others are probably not. So today, think of it as a fun thing to do. I will share the recipe with you on my Google Classroom once I post this video, and we'll do it. So away we go. Than that, it's a pretty bleak day. So today I thought what we'd do is we would actually bake some cookies. Now we're going to come into my kitchen and we're going to take a look at a couple different things. So on the table I have a lot of the basic ingredients that you're going to need for baking cookies. A couple words of caution. Number one is that unfortunately you find that you may not have all these different supplies. So because supplies are becoming limited, a lot of stores are asking you to buy one of each thing. You may not have these supplies. But on the table, I have the basic supplies of things that we're going to need. As I mentioned before, some supplies may be limited in availability based on what store you go to. But if you have some of these basic items around your house, you can actually make a batch of cookies. Today I'm going to make a batch of chocolate chip cookies. I'm making a half a batch because A, it's just my wife and me, and two, I can make a half because I want to show you that math actually does work in your everyday life. So today what I'm going to do is I need some basic ingredients. Notice I have two bowls sitting here. In this first bowl, I have combined flour, baking soda, and salt. What I put in here is 1 1/8 of a cup of all-purpose flour. I put in half a teaspoon of baking soda, and I also put half a teaspoon of salt. Now, why baking soda as opposed to baking powder? I did get both these guys out just to kind of show you the difference. Baking soda and baking powder are sodium bicarbonate. That basically means that it helps our dough and everything rise chemically so that when you're baking it, it actually changes it from a dough to something you can eat. So baking powder, if you have that and do not have baking soda, what I looked up online, they say you can take 3 times the amount of the required amount that you would need for baking soda in order to bake goods that you wanted. The difference between the two is that usually when you use one, there's an acidic agent of some sort that you add to your recipe that would help everything become fluffy and moist and rise. I can't remember which one it was. I believe baking powder is the one that you would add like a lemon juice to, but you can use baking soda as the same kind of principle. So in the first bowl, I've combined all 3 of these ingredients. In the next bowl over here, I've already pre-mixed a couple different sugars. So the actual recipe calls for 3/4 of a cup of granulated white sugar, and also calls for 3/4 of a cup of like a light brown sugar. So what I did is I took half of each of those sugars and mixed them into a second bowl, which I'll be mixing up here very shortly. I've also got 1 stick of butter. I've got 1 egg. If you're having a hard time finding butter or eggs, a margarine would be a good substitute, as long as you get close to 1 of these. As I turn this thing over, if you look at any stick of butter, will give you the measurements that you need. So if you're trying to figure out measurements of different things, in this particular one, shows you that there are 8 tablespoons in 1 stick of butter. It also shows you, if you take a look on the side, that there are 4 tablespoons per 1/4 cup. So if you know how much of a cup you're measuring, or even in different things, you can find different measurements to help you bake this thing properly. Eggs, you can use egg substitute in case someone in your family cannot eat real eggs. And butter, you can use margarine. It should have the same measurements on it. Last but not least, you want to mix your chocolate chip cookies with something else that you need. So in this case, I'm using Toll House because we have these left over. I want to get rid of them, and I wouldn't mind replacing them with something new. Actually, there is another bag in there, but I'm just using this. You can use anything, really, to mix your Toll House chocolate chip cookies. You can use dark chocolate chips. You can use the mini morsels. You can even use M&Ms if you really wanted to. It doesn't matter what you use, as long as you're able to do it and mix them all up together. One of the things I should have mentioned is the importance of washing your hands between every process. When you bake, cook, touch any kind of food, you want to make sure that you wash your hands and make sure that everything is clean. That's how germs spread. One thing I'm actually doing right now is I'm heating up the oven. This is my oven, in case you're curious. You can see it's on. And what we're doing is we're warming it up to 375 degrees. Right now I'm running the mixer, and as you can kind of see right now, all I did is I put the butter in there, and I put the egg inside of there as well. One of the things you want to make sure that when you're adding your butter is you want to make sure that your butter is actually softened. When I say softened, what that means basically is you want to have it sit at the room temperature for maybe about an hour or so. Another thing, alternative that you can do is if you took a microwave, and if you actually took your butter and you soften it, you put it in there for a plate or a bowl, say for about 20 seconds. That should be enough, hopefully, to actually soften it up. So now, what I'm doing is I'm taking the sugars and I'm putting them in there along with the butter, which has been softened, and I put my one egg inside of there before actually mixing everything up. Something else I neglected to mention is getting some imitation vanilla. What vanilla does is it gives a little extra edge and flavor. It also gives the baking some kind of a thing that you can, just an ingredient that you add to everything. So what I did is I added about half a teaspoon of this to my current mixture. Right now, as I've added this already, now you can kind of see how everything is mixing up. Looks like a soupy little mix. I'm going to turn this up just a little bit, and now I'm going to add the flour mix to it. As I add my flour mix, you can kind of see I've got everything mixing up in here a little bit. I have one of my big stirring spoons, like this guy. Slow it down just a little bit to make sure everything gets mixed up together so that we have what we need. All we got is a small little bit of something. I'm sorry I keep blocking it. Last but not least, we come over here and we grab our chocolate chips. The important thing, we're going to add those. So while this thing chunks up, we're going to let that mix, and we're going to have it mix shortly. Okay, so now my oven is actually at 375, so we're all set. Inside of here, the mix is made. Notice I'm using a tablespoon. So what you do is you take a tablespoon of each of these cookies and you put them onto a cookie sheet. So you should have some sort of a baking sheet of some sort. You don't need to fill more than half the tablespoon with it, and then you can just put them into little circles, little balls like that, and you put them on the baking dish just like that. Resist the urge to eat the raw cookie dough. I'm just as guilty as everybody else, and yes, I've had some. However, do as I say, not as I do. Raw cookie dough contains egg that could actually make you sick. So I'm advising you not to do that. Doesn't mean you're not going to. I can't control you in that part. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this oven, take this cookie sheet, put it in the oven for about 10 minutes, let it bake at 375, and then when the timer goes off, we'll pull them out. You can kind of see in the light, I put a little light on inside so we can kind of see how it looks a little bit better. I took the liberty of setting up a wire rack. A wire rack basically gives your cookies a chance to cool from not only up above but from underneath. Notice it's a little bit elevated off the ground. I used a paper towel to catch any crumbs that may or may not develop when I put these things on here. As I pull the first batch out in about 8 minutes from now, I'll set them on the wire rack, and then what I'll do is I'll put the second and final batch of cookies into the oven while these cool right here. Behold, cookies. Yum. Now, a couple other safety precautions. Like I mentioned, one, make sure you have a pot holder. Don't do what I do in class sometimes. A pot holder is super important, especially if you're going to be grabbing 375-degree cookie pan. Number one. Number two, look at how each of the cookies appear. They have that brown edge around them, which basically means that they are pretty well cooked or baked. I'm going to put this on my rack, and then I'm going to start the second batch. All the cookies have been pulled from the oven, and I put them on the wire rack, -1 because I just ate it. Okay, well that's about it, guys. I will post the full recipe of how to do this. What's important is to remember, follow all your safety protocols at home, just like you do in the science lab. Make sure you wear protective gear to help you as you're working around different pieces of equipment that's inside your kitchen. And remember, enjoy the food while you're doing it. If you have any questions about how to do things or what I did in my recipe, you can post them right on the Google Classroom or shoot me an email. Until then, guys, it's good seeing you. Take care.